see when
I know how the relationship.
What are, is it mostly oil?
Not.
Can't do that.
Yeah, how they came to
They
that.
must have had some kind of reason.
Well, I was driven by oil, but there's some new stuff. Desalination issues.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I just want them to stand up so everybody sees them, and you probably already know them, but let me just say who they are. So Mark, our new board member, Seth, Sergio Cabrera, Jenna Matheny from Tulane, Kevin Pollard from Global Solve, and Tom Cady from Cady Associates. So we have a few board members who are not here besides Carrie Ann Schultz, Joe Graven from USM, and Greg Friedlander from Friedlander Associates in Mobile. Today we're talking about, as most of you are panelists, so you know, we're talking about hiring and hiring locally, keeping our local people, our good people here, keeping those people here. And how do we do that? You know, being a draw, a magnet. So, okay, that's all I have to say. Sorry I talked so long. And I'd like to introduce Aaron Sinich, who is going to give us our keynote address. And Aaron can probably do a much better job introducing himself than I can do introducing him. So, Aaron, would you mind sharing with everybody?
Just a little bit of a brief background on the Bioinnovation Center. We were started in 2002. The Department of Economic Development wanted to find ways to get more value out of the university research that was being done here. The whole idea of it was job creation. They wanted to see how many jobs they could put together on top of the great research, the bench research that was being done here in, well, statewide. We're part of a 3-facility network, but the Bioinnovation Center focuses on the greater New Orleans area. So we have 4 partners. The company was formed by LSU and Tulane, but at the same time when I joined in 2004, I branched out, brought in Xavier and UNO as well. These are great institutions. You look at across the board, everything from basic pharmaceuticals, devices, drug deliveries. It's really quite fantastic. And again, all of this was just sitting there. When you would look at where everything was, we had, again, the great bench research. Prior to the storm, we had fantastic clinical trials going on in the clinical facilities, and we were created to try to fill in that gap there. It's about to with lab needs and other pieces. So again, we need employees to move into this building, and we're very concerned that we're not going to find these individuals. So I think that the city, the state has to do all it can, but at the same time, I think we have to get creative to really attract these individuals and retain these individuals over the next several years. We haven't reached that point where we have the critical mass to really get this industry to grow, and I think this will be the critical piece to basically make that happen. And that's my piece.
The commercialization opportunities of coming out of this building and other areas around it, which I was mentioning to somebody earlier. There were 4 dermatology companies on the North Shore alone that are in this market, and they're in 7,000 Walgreens, one of them. Boudreaux's Butt Paste is a $100 million business now, and these are all local people, and they're angel investors in other projects. You know, maybe if there was a focus, and obviously Pam Lab on the North Shore, if there was a product development focus along with basically better segmentation, more segmentation to really define the roles so that people can get their arms around it. Because I think a lot of times the local business community and others in the space who really have translational skill sets don't really understand it.
But Aaron has done such an extraordinary job with this facility here, building it up and getting the people here. He's one of the unsung heroes. George Harker, who I just was shocked to hear has been let go a month ago, is another one in this community. And those are the kinds of people that I like to be around, and I would call, if I had heroes, they would look like that. They're people who get stuff done for the betterment of this community here. You may or may not know about it, or you may or may not know the depth of it. But Aaron's clearly one of them. I think Justin and Jenna, who work with him as interns, would also say, would you start this conversation out by saying, what is the role of the continuing education or advanced degree programs at local universities here and even amplify into like being able to take courses at night and stuff like that. How big a role, or how big an element of retaining talent here is that as a component for our success?
Yeah, I think that's a really big component. I'm going to start off with a really particular example. There's a program in Tulane's biomedical engineering program that has a +1 year for its masters, and what that allows people to do is, people who went to undergrad here, maybe not from here, start to really like the city and decide to spend an extra year here. And because they're getting a master's, they get to spend a little bit more time with some of the technologies that they've seen, that they've been around, and it allows them to test the waters a little bit more to decide if they want to move forward. I think the educated workforce is absolutely crucial, obviously, to supplying the holes that you saw Aaron talk about earlier. And I think from what my office has seen, and Jenna can back me up on this, we've seen people come to our office looking for opportunities with these degrees, and there's just been, I think, a bit of a gap trying to get these people connected to the opportunities that are around. So for me, the issue isn't so much salary, it's is there an opportunity here that can grow my career to the next step, to take me to the next step. And even if the next step means a pay cut, I'll take it, because it means that it means that it'll benefit me.
I'm hearing two things here. I'm hearing one is the difficulty finding and accessing internships. I'm hearing something else that says longer internships. So between those two, choose one. Am I right?
I think that I would go ahead and just pick the longer internships. Normally, for the grad program that we have at Mulasky, it's a 2-year program, and most internships only last a year. So to coincide, it would be greater to have an internship for 2 years.
So extended internships, which leads her other idea for those of you who haven't thought of one.
I mean, for me, the highest priority is crime and safety. If you're not safe, if we can't curb this issue, none of the rest really matters. I talk to people all the time, they love New Orleans, they're here, but the second they stop feeling safe and they're having kids, or they're working in an up-and-coming neighborhood, which is, that's where they can afford and they want to put down roots, they want to buy, but they're concerned if they're going to be safe. If that starts to be the major concern, because there are jobs other places. There are other places that are interesting, that are exciting. They don't compare to New Orleans, but when you get carjacked, it doesn't matter. That place that's a little boring looks really nice. And so the improvements that we've made are tremendous, but I mean, the number 1, number 2, number 3 issue for New Orleans is crime.
The reason that it would need to be outside people is because if, for example, the law schools told their students anything close to the truth about what their job prospects were and what the practice of law is like, it would be nasty.
Well, it is true. Back in 1987, 88, I spoke to the business school up at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and I asked a question in the last 15 minutes, said, when you leave here, these were seniors, how much money do you expect to make? This is 87, 88, and the consensus was about $80,000 a year.
Right out the door, huh?
And I'm thinking, what an incredible disservice to students to set that expectation, because you may have ruined that person's willingness ever to contribute. So, yeah, that level of honesty. But I think this connection is important here. I think that's something that our organization can help with, and it is exposing kids, because if you don't know about what it is to be a patent attorney, or if you don't know what it's like to work with an accountant, and I didn't like accounting. I found it boring, unexciting, and the head advisor never fit. But what I found was I talked to some accountants who work for me years later. They love it because they think all the numbers flow through them and they control the company. And if you're a control freak and you like no mistakes, you're obsessed with that kind of stuff, accounting is a good place for you, and you'll be very happy there. I wasn't.
They don't have the money to get to that very next level of development. I'm not talking about, even getting ready to be funded by, not even ready for angel investors, not even ready to go to that stage, but just even pre-incubator financing, to de-risk the technology a little bit, to have a little more data so they can apply for non-dilutive funding like SBI or STTR grants. And there's just, we see a big gap between what can be financed through the university and then what other funding agencies like SBI and STTR opportunities want to see in terms of where the technology is. If there was some kind of sector that focused on these pre-incubator technologies to really just de-risk them 1 or 2 levels so that they're able to move up without saying, oh, we have this, really very early stage data, that makes a lot of people say, well, why would we fund this? If there was a sector that focused on those technologies and didn't even try to form companies around them at the outset, but simply focused on the technology itself, I think we would see more technologies coming off the shelf, and as a result, more either licensing opportunities or
I just, kind of wanted to meet other people who are thinking about the same things. So.
I'm Mark Mulasky. I'm a patent attorney at Copel Trailer here in New Orleans. I grew up in Houston, and I came here for law school, and I got extremely addicted. So I'm very familiar with that money question and how much do you have to, take a pay cut to stay here, but, some of us, it's worth it. One of the things, I really like all the discussions about how we're going to build the market and the economy here, but one of the other things I would really like to see this group get involved in is people like him. He shows up here, and he wants a job, but I bet nobody here today offers him or tells him where to find one, and that's what happened to me a couple years back. And I was fortunate enough to find a job here, but I know that a lot of the firms that are big enough to have patent departments will go through other channels to recruit, or people will find them a different way. And we need to pick someone like this guy who shows up, and he's willing to waste half his day here with us talking about our business. Let's grab someone like that shows the commitment versus going to the CDO or go at one of the schools and is like, all right, give me your top 10 people, please. Somebody have an interview.
That means I'm connected. You're connected. In Austin, Texas. I've been here 35 years, and I met Kathleen Chapman. I was the keynote speaker and I was born in New Orleans, grew up in Pensacola and along the coast, Mobile and so on, and ended up in Texas. I started with IBM in Pensacola in '67. I left New Orleans in '52, so I'll tell you, I have some gray here. But I've been starting companies here in Austin for decades, and moving back to the Gulf Coast, and that's why since I grew up in Pensacola, it has pretty beaches, I was going there, but Kathleen Chapman and Lori Jugan grabbed me by the tie and said, you need to come to Mississippi and Louisiana before you get back in bed with the Floridians. So I was supposed to be down there this week, and my goal in life, I have a simple saying is, have fun, do good, make money, repeat process. And so I want to come to the Gulf Coast, and I'm actually talking with the Naval Research Lab right now about some of their patents and so on, about how I can turn them into companies. I have an Austin company.